Isn't it really nasty to ruin people's evening, people who've saved up to buy a ticket to go there for their birthday or a wedding anniversary, and some hooligans go in and disrupt the programme?
Thanks for having me on, Jacob. That's an interesting question. I'd just like to start by saying the big news of today, the big climate news of today, is that the scientists have run out of words to describe what is happening in respect of global annual average temperatures. We've just had the hottest global September on record. That follows the hottest July on record and the hottest August on record. So the situation that we're in, the scientists have got their heads in their hands.
But this isn't what I asked you about. I asked you whether it's deeply selfish and unpleasant to ruin people's harmless pleasure, which they've spent good money on. Are you going to compensate the people who were there?
What I'll say, Jacob, is that aside from being the parent of 2 young children, I also have a 20-year career in theatre. I'm a theatre professional. So I absolutely understand not only the frustration of the audience last night, but also the anxiety and the stress that was almost certainly caused to the performers on stage and the technical team working backstage. But, you know, what the cultural industries exist to do and what artists exist to do.
So are you actually condemning the protesters last night? Now you've said that, you feel sorry for the performers, sorry for the audience, sorry for the backstage hands?
No, I can hold 2 thoughts in my head at the same time, Jacob. I appreciate the disruption caused.
So this is crocodile tears, isn't it? You had somebody on crying on Sky News, another set of crocodile tears.
But what I will say is that we exist in the cultural industries and as artists to reflect society back at itself. And Les Misérables wasn't chosen by accident. Les Misérables is a story that starts off with a man being imprisoned for stealing a loaf of bread to feed a starving child. A woman is forced to sell her hair, then her teeth, and then her body to feed her child. And then at the exact moment that they disrupted the story last night, we have a revolution, an uprising of students against
but we've now got a democracy, which they didn't have in France at that time. Why don't you stand for election?
I haven't got time to stand for election, Jacob. We've got to work.
Well, you're too important to stand for election and put your name in front of voters.
Also, one of the most fantastic MPs we've had over recent years, who's done more for the climate than anyone else, Caroline Lucas, is stepping down from Parliament because she says she cannot achieve what she needs to do.
But that's because the Greens can't win an election, isn't it? That people only vote for one Green MP. So are you against democracy? Should we have a totalitarian state run by Just Stop Oil? Is that what you want?
I'm not against democracy. What I'm against
is stand for election then, because instead you just bully people.
Again, this government, which has no mandate because its leader was not chosen by the people, has announced 100.
It's got a majority in Parliament, which is how a constitution works.
In the North Sea. That announcement of new licences is against not just the advice but the warnings of the United Nations, the World Health Organization, every single climate scientist in the world. But
that announcement of licences actually reduces emissions, doesn't it? It will reduce emissions because they're lower if we use our own resources than import them.
If we burn fossil fuels, it will increase emissions.
But we're going to burn the same number of fossil fuels anyway. It's just ours rather than being imported.
It's not coming from me, Jacob. That's coming from experts.
But the experts acknowledge that it will reduce the emissions because it doesn't have the transportation emissions.
So we are being governed by a government that is not acting in the best interest of its people. And
Let's stand for election and see if people agree with you, rather than rioting.
I completely understand and support these young people who stepped up last night to say, as in the words that we hear in that show, it's time to decide who we are.